They fire me, I'll find another job, right? Yes, guys, it's pretty hard to get fired around here, by the way. Okay. But one of our teachers almost did last year.
What they do? Oh, yeah.
Complaining about salaries. As you guys know, we don't make as much money as the public school teachers, right? You know this why? Because your teachers have probably bitched about it for 4 years while you've been here. Yes? Trying not to bitch about it. Okay, I went into education not to get rich. I knew I wasn't going to, and you shouldn't either. Okay, because teachers are what we call public servants. Police officers are public servants. Firefighters, public servants. Military, public servants. What's the second part of that word? Do servants make as much? No. Okay, so you're not going to get rich. Okay, but being a living wage is good, you know, being able to raise a family, achieve the American dream, own your own home, that sort of thing. Yes. Okay. So let's say we're making 75% of what 259's making. Okay. So guys, 2 years ago, I spent a whole lot of money to get a master's degree. Okay. I got a master's. I thought I'd get one, you know, before I turned 60. You know what I mean? Like, or at least before my kids got one, right? So I got a master's in teaching and learning through Friends University. Now the diocese helped pay for half of that, which I'm like grateful. But the main reason I did it wasn't because I'd get paid more, because we don't have a scale for that. We don't have a pay scale here. In fact, after I got my master's, I really did not see an increase in my salary. Now, if I'd been teaching in 259, boom, that's an automatic jump. Okay, and the longer you teach, the more you make. There's a pay scale built in. It doesn't matter how good of a teacher you are. It's just that you're there for that long. Okay, and you have a degree. And by the way, guys, masters in teaching learning, easy. In fact, say you want to go to college, you're like, I'm not a very good student. It's the easiest degree you can get. Is education. Okay? You want to be an elementary school teacher? Piece of cake, guys. You just got to jump through the hoops. It's not like it's academically difficult, like science or chemistry or algebra, which for some of you might come easy. For a lot of you, it doesn't, like me. Okay? I took college algebra 3 times. Did I tell you that? D plus, C minus. Had to have a C to get into business school. Okay? It's really hard for me. Okay? Like math, I don't need it anymore. Okay? But anyhow, I didn't have to do any math in my master's in teaching and learning. Okay? So anyhow, so let's say we're making 75%. Now, 259 just got a big raise this year, the teachers. Okay? So we decided, me and Mrs. Fox, and say, Coach Trey, we decided to go around to all the teachers and say, let's form a union. Okay? Now, why am I whispering? Because if they get wind of this before we actually pull it off, they'll find a good reason to fire me before we can do it. You with me? And all you got to do is go back and look at my YouTube videos from the last 7 years, and you'll find some reason to fire me. Okay? Now, like I believe I cussed in 0 hours a day. I might cuss today. Did I? What did I say? Bitch. What did I say? Bitch. That's a female dog. Ass is in the Bible. Get off my ass. All right, now. Fire me. Okay, now. So we do it, all right? And then before the next school year starts, we go to the superintendent, to the bishop, and say, look, we want a 10% pay raise to bring us within 85% of what the public schools make. Okay? And they laugh at us. It's like, where are we gonna get the money for that? Okay? And so, you show up for school. We're out on Central. We're striking. We've got signs. Social justice for Catholic school teachers. Hell no, we won't go. Okay? You guys got to come to school. The administration's got to come to school. They're not on strike. So Lemunion, take the seniors. You guys are going to be in an auditorium. Okay? It's Harshberger, take the juniors. They'll be in the Commons. Freshmen are in the AC with Shuckman. Or Skaggs will be with the sophomores in the K. Okay? I mean, which grade level is the worst to teach here? These guys are a piece of cake. Sophomores, man. I would not want to teach sophomores. Okay? They're not freshmen anymore, so you can't scare them. And they think they're smart, and they're not. Juniors start to figure it out a little bit, right? You guys are pretty chill. You know what I mean? So, you guys got to come to school. Now, you guys know Mr. Willis, new guy? Seen him? Mr. Willis? Mm-hmm. Now, let's say Mr. Willis is a newlywed. He just got married. His wife's pregnant. He bought a house. Got a car payment. And we go on strike. So that means after 2 weeks, Mr. Willis ain't getting no paycheck. And Mr. Willis decides, listen, I want to stand with you guys, but I really need to get paid. So he puts on khakis and a white shirt. He shaves, parks in the back, and sneaks into the school with the students in the morning. Starts teaching. So we're out front picketing. We're not getting paid. We're like, where's Willis? Where's Willis at? I think I saw him going to the school. Where's his car? Get out my knife. That's Willis's car. Tire slashed. Smash in his freaking windshield. Yeah. Guys, we're talking about coal miners on strike. We're talking about dock workers, railroad workers. You become a scab, or you go back to work and you cross the picket line. Violence, man. Violence. Okay? Permeate. We got 4 million people on strike. Okay, this scares people. You understand? Like the public, they're like afraid. The businesses don't like it. I mean, if the railroad stops running, you're not moving goods across the country. Okay? The government doesn't like it because it's unstable. The courts will start turning against the strikers, and the public is afraid. They don't like this. Okay? So, then the Boston police go on strike. Now, think about this. What would happen if the Wichita Police Department went on strike? More crime, yeah? What about speeding? What about the roads? You guys ever seen the movie The Purge? How many of you guys seen that movie? It's freaking crazy. It's like for 24 hours you can commit whatever crime you want. Murder's legal for 24 hours. It's a crazy movie. They have Purge 1, 2, and 3, I think now. They have 3 of them. 2, I don't know.
What are you doing if you're in the purge?
So you're either trying to survive the 24 hours, or you're one out there committing crimes.
No, like what would you do personally? That 24 hours.
Dude, if I knew there was going to be a purge, I would have a stockpile of weapons. I'd board up my windows and my doors and defend my family. That's what I would do.
Not killing nobody.
No, I'm not going out.
That's good.
I don't want to kill him.
You're not going to have that college algebra teacher.
Wasn't their fault. I had tutors and stuff, you know what I mean? My mind just doesn't work. Anybody else struggle with algebra? It's just like, okay, you got this step, right? Okay, I got this step. And then you have another step. And then you get to the third step, and my mind's like, wait a second, what was that first step? What was that? Oh, God, I can't even think. That's how I am. Is that how you are? Yeah. Can't do it. All right, so when the Boston police go on strike, now, guys, Wichita probably wouldn't see too much bad behavior, but think about it right now. If the Chicago Police Department went on strike, I mean, they have a lot of crime every day there. Now, LA, New Orleans, which is the murder capital of the country, per capita. No. So the governor of Massachusetts, Calvin Coolidge, calls in the National Guard. This is national news. Everybody's paying attention. You got these cops with funny hats picketing, okay? And he saves the day, calls in the National Guard. So the guy that's running for president, Warren G. Harding, calls up Coolidge. He doesn't call him because they don't have phones yet. But gets Coolidge to be his running mate, to be his vice president. And this is how Coolidge becomes a national politician and then later president, okay? President Wilson, who's still in charge in 1919, 1920, and the courts start turning back these strikers. And because of all this chaos, union membership starts to decline, okay? Now, when I talk about people were scared, why were people scared? You guys remember during COVID? Remember when there was a toilet paper shortage? You guys remember this? Like, seriously, guys. There's a toilet paper shortage. I live right next to Dillon's. Dillon's is like on the corner of my neighborhood. It's behind Dillon's. And we would walk over there hoping that they put out a new pallet of toilet paper because as soon as they did, dude, boom, 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 people. And then you had a limit on how many you could buy. Now, what kind of shortage is coming next? What if there's a food shortage, guys, in America? Oh, damn, dude. What if there's a food shortage? I'm like, dude, I don't know what's going to go on. We're locking down. Only certain businesses are allowed to be open. What if they run out of food? Because we don't have the manufacturing, the meat packing industry, you got all these other things, you got farm, all this, you got to move the food, you got all this. What's going to happen? So the first time in my life, guys, I've never owned a gun before. My parents didn't have a gun. My dad had an old revolver from the Korean War. I think it was a little 22. It was rusted. I don't even think it worked. We didn't have bullets for it. Now, I'd fired a gun before because I had friends that owned guns and stuff like that, but never wanted a gun in the house because I had kids. I don't know. I just don't know a lot about it. Dude, I went out and bought a gun. So I was scared. I was worried. What if people start breaking into other people's houses for food? Now I don't live too far from, where there's quite a bit of crime in Wichita. Just a few blocks, a couple miles. Scared. People are starting to get this fear. This is what we're talking about today. Right? Scared. Okay? Now, this goes from bad to worse. So in the summer of 1919, guys, we're going to have race riots. All over the country. Now, you guys are old enough to remember the Black Lives Matter protest? It's 2 years ago, right? Isn't it interesting how those all went away when Joe Biden was elected? Or you haven't seen it since? You find that interesting? It's almost as if it was maybe orchestrated. I don't know. Now, we obviously know that George Floyd, while being arrested, died. And 4 cops put on trial and convicted of murder. Okay? Any of you guys remember hearing this kind of slogan, if you will? Hands up, don't shoot. You guys remember hearing this? Okay, that was born out of a case in Ferguson, Missouri, in St. Louis. Okay, where an unarmed black man was shot by a police officer. His name was Michael Brown. Okay, and I'm going to come back to that story of Michael Brown because there were riots in Missouri. There were riots during the Black Lives Matters protests in places like Kenosha, Wisconsin, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. Okay. In the 80s, guys, there was a case in Los Angeles where an individual named Rodney King, who was a black man, was savagely beaten by police officers, and it was caught on video. So this video of cops beating the crap out of this black man, it went viral. You know what I mean? There's no viral in the 80s, but it was on CNN. It was on all the news stations. Guys, massive riots in Los Angeles. Okay? It was upset black people, rioting, looting, so forth. Okay? That's not what this is. This is totally different race riots. This is white people going into black neighborhoods and killing black people. In 1921, 100 years ago, 2 years ago, they recognized the anniversary of what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You guys aware of this story? What happened in Tulsa? There was a neighborhood in Tulsa that was predominantly African American. It was a middle class neighborhood. This was not, Poorville with the projects where this is a middle class neighborhood. So you have black owned businesses, butcher shops, banks that are owned by black people, middle class neighborhood, people doing very well there. Back in the old days, when you were at a hotel and there was an elevator, they used to have like a hotel attendant, that would push the button for you, open the gate, close the gate, you know what I mean? For the people, you've seen this in the movies maybe. Those of you that watch movies. There's not very many of you. Okay. So anyhow, there was this 18-year-old teenager black kid. He was an elevator attendant in Tulsa. He was accused of raping a white girl. Okay. Word spread about this. The kid went on the run. He went into that neighborhood where it was predominantly black. And a white mob formed to go find this guy and lynch him. Now, everybody knows what lynching means. It's to hang somebody illegally. We used to have legal hanging. You could be, hanged. This lynching comes out of the Civil War, guys. There was a colonel in the Confederate Army that had a propensity to hang runaway slaves. His name was Lynch, Colonel Lynch. So the name stuck here. So that's what lynching means. That's where it comes from. There were 76 blacks lynched that summer all across the United States. Okay? Guys, what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma? Told you. You can be.
No. Walking through.
Okay, so there's an old movie. What's the name of the movie?
Norma Ray.
Norma Ray. What kind of factory did she work in? Was it textile or something?
Yeah, it was something. But they were breathing in like goofy dust and.
You heard about the Radium Girls? Is that the name of the book? Radium Girls, right? Yeah. So the movie is Norma Ray walks into the factory where they're making these things, and she stands up on the table and holds up the sign. Union. Okay, it's a famous movie, famous scene from a movie, Norma Ray. Okay, So every year when I talk about the unions, Ms. Fox comes in, she asks, are you talking about unions? I tell her when I'm talking about unions. And I always use her name when we're forming the union, right? So. All right, there you go. All right, so anyhow, guys, what happened in Tulsa? Guys, they burned houses, businesses. This is brutal. In Chicago, guys, you got Lake Michigan. There's a beach where mostly African Americans went. The white mob forms in Chicago. It just starts attacking these black people for no good reason. This is a different kind of race riot. Okay, so this is ugly. Okay, James Weldon Johnson referred to this as the Red Summer. This case more for blood reasons. Okay. Well, the Attorney General of the United States under Wilson is this guy, Mitchell Palmer. Okay, now we've got the union violence. Now we've got race riot violence. And he's accusing these people of committing these violence as being communist agitators. Now, with unions are similar to the idea of Marxism, where the workers unite together to rise up against the wealthy, the powerful, bring them down and raise themselves up. So if you're looking for a communist in the United States, I'm not saying that unions are communist. You might find some in a union. So this is what Palmer thinks is going on. See, guys, if you study communism and Communist International, it spreads through revolution. That's how communist movements begin, through revolution. And he sees the making of revolution in America in 1919. Guys, follow me on this. Then the fear that starts to pervade. And then it goes from bad to worse. On the next slide. The next slide. Terrorism. Bomb scares. That's right, guys. Domestic terrorism. Okay. Mail bombs. Now, there was a guy in the 1980s became known as the Unabomber. Any guys seen this on Netflix? You saw it? His name was Ted Kaczynski. Now, this guy was brilliant. Like, he went to MIT, Harvard, that kind of thing. And he had this weird affinity against technology. Like some of the new technology was coming out and stuff like that. This guy wigged out, wrote a big manifesto, and basically lived in a hut, went off the grid, lived in a hut in Montana, in the middle of nowhere. And then he would appear in a city and he would mail bombs to unsuspecting people. This went on for years. They finally got a sketch of somebody that dropped off a package. Now, the sketch had him in sunglasses, a hat on, he's got curly hair. That's it. This goes on for years. He publishes, the newspapers begin to publish his manifesto. And people are reading like this guy's views on technology and stuff. Somebody reads it and he realizes this is his brother. This is the stuff his brother used to talk about. So his brother goes to the FBI and eventually they find this guy in a hut in Montana. Okay. These mail bombs were sent to specific targets. Here. Mail bombs addressed to the Attorney General, Mitchell Palmer, the Secretary of Labor that deals with labor unions, wages, okay, working conditions, labor laws. J.P. Morgan, you've all heard that name before. He's a multinational banker. And does anybody remember what business Rockefeller was in? Oil. He was the founder of Standard Oil. basically had a monopoly for a long time, and he was one of the richest men in the world. Then a bomb goes off at the corner of Broad and Wall Street. This is the aftermath. 38 people are killed in this bomb, hundreds injured. Now, does anybody know what's at the corner of Broad and Wall Street? This statue's still there. This building is in the background. Wall Street. The New York Stock Exchange. Now, I want you to put your detective hat on. We talked a lot about this yesterday. These targets are targets of capitalism. I mean, what's more capitalism than the New York Stock Exchange? Or Morgan and Rockefeller? Look at the targets. Who is sending these bombs? Detective? Communists. Okay. Union violence, race riots. Now we got tyranny. Palmer, who has a bomb blow up on his front doorstep of his house, is going to start arresting people. Now, guys, we have something in this country called due process, like innocent until proven guilty. Palmer threw that out the window. He started rounding people up that he thought were anarchists and communists and Bolsheviks. He's going to start deporting them out of the country. Now, you can't deport somebody that was born here. Where are you going to deport him to? Ohio? Okay. So this is going to be people that had come into the country that he's deporting without due process. Okay. The media in the end will call him paranoid Palmer. Okay. That's something you'll want to remember. Paranoid Palmer. I need to sign something? Yep. If you want to watch the rest of the lecture, it'll take about 30 minutes in.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Now, anarchists, guys, right? Got the symbol of anarchy. You ever see that spray painted somewhere? Okay. On a patch. There were quite a few anarchists in the country. Okay? You guys know what anarchy is? The purge. There's no laws, there's no government. We just govern ourselves however we feel like we need to. Individually. That's anarchy. Okay. Which is really stupid. I mean, I'm no fan of government, but come on. You got to have some rules for society. At least we get to decide what those rules are. We elect people to make the rules for us, at least, right? If we don't like the rules they make, we elect somebody else. They change the rules. Now, guys, this is a little hard to talk about. Is everybody in here Catholic? Am I the only heathen in here? Remember, the 13 colonies. They were all from Britain. Yes? The Anglo-Saxons. But guys, the English church, the Church of England, the Anglican Church was Protestant. So the vast majority of people that started this country, almost all of them, were white Protestants. For the longest time, guys, white Protestants the majority of Americans. 51% is a majority. Half plus one is a majority. Today, 2023, white Protestants are plurality. There is no majority in this country. Now, there is a majority of women in this country. There are more women than there are men. But as far as race or religion go, there is no majority anymore. Plurality means the most. So the biggest population in the United States is white. The biggest religion is Protestant. But it's not 51%. You follow me? Okay, that's a plurality. Okay. But guys, during this time in the 1920s, majority, vast majority, white Protestant. With me? So when this fear starts to happen, people get scared. They start to vent those fears to anybody that's not like them. Follow me? And that included blacks, Jews, and Catholics. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but when this country was founded, you look at that document over there on the wall, the Declaration of Independence. Did any Catholics sign that? You know this? Did you learn this like in your Catholic middle school? Leave it to the Protestant to teach you Catholic history. Okay. Now, one Catholic signed the Declaration of Independence. His name, Charles Carroll. Okay? If you ever watched that movie, and I know you did, that movie, National Treasure. Everybody's seen National Treasure. At the very beginning of that movie, they talk about Charles Carroll. Okay? He was Irish. And he was one of the richest men in America. If you have me for government class, I'll teach you a lot about Charles Carroll. Okay? Pretty cool dude. Really neat guy to study. Okay? There's a book that Father Eric Weldon lent me called American Cicero, Charles Carroll. Okay? Really good stuff. And teach you all about that. And you got Irish in you? Some Irish in here? Yeah. You know, there was a day here in this country where they'd say, help wanted sign, right? Help wanted. Lots of those right now. Help wanted. Irish need not apply. We don't want you. Okay? Now, personally, I freaking love the Irish. My best friend in the world is Irish. His name's Tom OConnor. Can you get more Irish than Tom OConnor? Okay? And he fulfills all the stereotypes of a good Irish man. You know the stereotypes, right? I won't go there. Irish like to fight, and they like to drink, and they're fiery. Yes? Now, all Irish like that? No. Tom OConnor? Never mind. Okay, now, so I want to point this out to you guys, okay? Because this gets kind of ugly. This is pretty ugly stuff, okay? And Catholics are not immune to it. Okay? So, the next group of people that's going to have this fear thrust upon them is foreigners. Now, some of you are familiar with this term, xenophobia. The fear of spiders, arachnophobia, right? Fear of heights. What is that? I don't know, but I got it. You guys got that one? Fear of heights? Am I the only one that had fear of heights? Put me on a roof, a 10-foot roof. I'm not comfortable here. Especially if it's got any kind of slope. No way, man. I'm not afraid to fly. I mean, 30,000 feet. I mean, wait. Now you put me in a small plane, I'm scared. Fear of foreigners. Well, that's alive and well. Okay? It's an American tradition. Losing people left and right. Makes me sad. I think this stuff's pretty interesting, personally. It's just me. So, all right, so, first thing, as this fear of foreigners really starts to kick up, okay, this immigration restriction league is formed, and they say every immigrant coming in this country should be able to read. Not necessarily read English, but just be able to read, be literate, okay? I talked to Tin today earlier, you know, our foreign exchange student, Tin, however you say it, okay? He came here last year, and I'm like, hey, man, how'd it go last year? That was his first year. How was the English going for you? He's like, yeah, nobody could understand me. And obviously he's gotten a lot better. You know what I mean? Like another year, he's doing great. But yeah, so like be able to read. And then they set quotas. Like a quota is we're going to allow a certain number of people in from certain countries. And then we do the National Origins Act in 1924. Now, between 1924 and 29, only 150,000 immigrants came into this country, guys, which is a tiny number historically. Hell, listen, man, over the last 4 months, we've had 150,000 people come across the southern border in the last 4 months. This is 5 years. Now, these Origins Act, like, we're going to allow people in from certain countries, their national origin. And this policy will favor Northern and Western European immigrants, and it's going to ban all Asians. You guys remember studying last year, we brought Chinese people in to help build the railroad across the country? Chinese Exclusion Act and stuff like that, okay? Now let me just ask you a question. Is this a racist immigration policy? Yeah, it is. Okay. Now, at the same time, the United States has the right to choose who they let into the country and not. If it's based on race and thinking that one race is superior to other races, that's racist. That's the definition of racism. If you think your race is superior to other races, that's racist. That's the definition. Okay? Now, the way I like to look at this is, you know, I teach kids of all different races. Okay? So the way I look at it is, look, there's good people in every race. There's brilliant people in every race. And there's stupid people in every race. We're all equal in that way. Am I right? Like this piece of shit in Jacksonville. See, I did it. You guys heard about what happened in Jacksonville a couple days ago. This white guy, he's 21, doesn't like black people. Gets some guns, goes to a Dollar General store, starts shooting black people. 3 of them died. Okay? That dude is a disgrace to the white race. Okay? I don't want to be associated with that. You know what I mean? I don't know. Okay? But what does the media do? White supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy. It's ratings. You know what sells? Blood sells. Blood sells. So guys, you're going to turn on the news if something like big's happening, right? I want to talk about it. Raise your hand if you had heard about Jacksonville before I mentioned it today. Raise your hand if you heard about it. You guys are not watching any news. How old are you? You have to pay attention. Now, the fact that you didn't watch the news means you didn't get caught up in all this white supremacy stuff that the news has been preaching for 3 days. So maybe that's a good thing. See, this is what I like to talk about. Yeah, I want to talk about what we have in common, not what we have separate. That's what I want to talk about. We talked about this yesterday, like where you guys are from. We're all immigrants, right? What kind of blood you got? German, and what else? So you're mutt. Did I talk about being mutt yesterday? Yeah, we're all mutts, right? Did I talk about how when my family came, when the Hebrides came in 1740s, across the Atlantic, there was no guarantee they were going to make it across the Atlantic. They had to take a risk to come across, right? Did I talk about that yesterday? Like, that's a risk. I mean, you get on a ship in 1740 to cross the Atlantic, there's no guarantee you're going to survive that trip. If you're in Cuba and you're trying to escape communism, you build a raft, and you try and get 20 or 90 miles to the Florida Keys to escape communism, make it to America. You taking a risk? If you hire a coyote in Mexico and pay him money to get you across the border, is there any guarantee of safe passage? No. What about if you're leaving Vietnam in a boat to escape communism in Vietnam into the South China Sea, having no idea what's going to happen to you, and you make it to America? Did it take a risk? This is what I love, guys. Now I'm going to get a little romantic here. Almost all of our ancestors took some kind of risk to come to America. Listen, you're leaving everything behind in your home country. Those of you that had Irish in you, your people came over here knowing that a lot of people in this country didn't like the Irish. And they certainly didn't like Catholics. But you did it anyways. Your ancestors did it anyways. Anybody got any Russian in them? Polish? We don't want no Polacks running around here. Guys, in the 80s, we used to have Polish jokes and blonde jokes. We don't do that anymore because it hurts people's feelings. We can't laugh anymore. We can't laugh at each other. Any of the Hispanic people in here got any white friends that make fun of them? Do you have any of you? I mean, just playfully, like, just kind of make, I don't know. You laugh about it, or does it hurt? Yeah, you laugh. You make fun of each other. No, you can't do that. You can't even do comedy anymore. You're going to offend somebody. There was a show in the 1970s on TV. It was the #1 show in America called Archie Bunker, All in the Family. Okay? Racist white guy in New York. Okay? Now, he's not a real mean racist. He's just racist. But the show, there's all these different people that come into his life during the show. He calls them names, and the audience laughs, and they call him names. You know, he's a bigot. He's an old fart. You know what I mean? They make fun of him. He makes fun of them, and everybody laughs. See, what's truly funny in comedy, guys, is when there's some element of truth to it. When a comedian's telling a joke and it's got some truth to it, we all laugh at it because it's part of the human condition. Funny. If we could just focus on not being so touchy and be able to laugh at ourselves and our human condition and focus on the things that we have in common, like all of us have risk-taking DNA in us. We all share that in common. Like, think about this. Think about the United States of America. Now, the #1 sport in the world, of course, is football, and I mean soccer. Right? It's the #1 sport in the world. But think about sports in the United States. We invented games like basketball, pigskin football, right? Boxing, MMA is huge in America. Pay-per-view, baby. We like fast cars. We like guns. We like risk-taking. Benjamin Franklin talked about this as early as 1776. He said, we have spawned a new race of people in America. Less refined than our French neighbors in Europe, our French allies in Europe. Less refined than the British, who speak like a bunch of, they got a corn cob stuck up their butt or something. Excuse me. You know how the British are. Tea and crumpets. Give me a beer. Right? The Germans, man, we're different. It's our own race. It's the melting pot, right? Not anymore, guys. Not the melting pot. It's the salad bowl. Have you heard the difference? Have you been taught this? What class? Psychology? Where did you hear this before? The melting pot approach versus the salad bowl. Okay, I had a big salad today for lunch. I make a mean salad. Okay, you got your lettuce, got your carrots, got your cheese, got your croutons, sunflower seeds, black olives, tomatoes. So all these different cultures come into the salad bowl from different places around the world. And they hold on to that distinct culture that they brought with them. They're proud of it. They hang on to their language. They hold on to their culture, these sorts of things. And they don't melt into a pot with all the other people. They stay separate. Now, over the years, guys, the centuries, we have adopted the different cultures that have emigrated into our country. We have brought them into part of the greater American culture, into the melting pot. For instance, the Christmas tree. Where does that come from? Who started cutting down trees and putting ornaments on them during Christmas time? The Germans. Okay, now guys, there was a couple of times in American history where we did not want Germans coming here. I don't know, like when we were fighting Germany in World War I and again in World War II, the freaking Krauts. But we adopted that part of their culture. I mean, look at what we eat in this country. Are you telling me like Latin America hasn't had a huge impact on the American culture? Holy cow. Who loves Mexican food? I use Spanish all the time. Now, I don't know a lot of Spanish, but I use Spanish words a lot. Part of the lexicon now. Part of America now. It's the melting pot. Now, multiculturalism, or the salad bowl approach, keeps us separated. Instead of including everybody, we keep people separated. Now, when you go to college, guys, they're going to teach you that the melting pot is wrong, salad bowl is right. And I just happen to disagree with it. I don't know how you come down on that, but you will hear this. All cultures are equal. I will fight you on that. All races are equal? Yes. All cultures are equal? Wrong. Think of some bad culture. Think of some good culture. You want to be stereotypical? I'll be stereotypical. I'm not afraid. I have an Asian daughter, so I can talk about Asians. Would you fair to say that in a lot of Asian families that education is of vital importance to their culture? Is that a good culture? What about in cultures where education is not important? That is good of a culture. I don't know. That's for you to decide. I think a culture that embraces education and thinks it's important is good. I think that one that doesn't is not very good. For all cultures equal. Well, you will be taught in college that all cultures are equal. Okay? What about the inner city culture? I'm going there. The inner city culture in America. So, like, you go to a predominantly African American school, and you have kids whose parents think that school's very important. They're very studious. They do all their homework. They get A's. They do all the right things to do well in education. And then they get picked on for acting what? Acting white. Now, our Hispanic people in here have heard this term, being whitewashed. You guys heard this? Whitewash. Get picked on for that, maybe. Okay? Well, the culture here at Bishop Carroll is education is important. God is important. That's part of your culture. I like that. And if you look at Hispanic culture, for instance, family is very important in Hispanic culture, traditionally. Yes? Big family. Everybody stays together, family. Is that a good culture? I think it is. I think it's great. I don't have that in my culture. I'm a white Protestant. So my culture said, my parent, my family, my culture said, you're an individual, and you, when you hit 18, you leave the nest and you go pursue your dreams in another state, in another place. I went away. My wife went away. We like thousands of miles away. Wasn't part of my culture. Like we stay close. Like everybody lives close to each other and stay. That wasn't part. Now I think that's got some benefits to it too. That individuality, going out and pursuing, hard work and Protestant work ethic that they talk about. Okay. We all have differences, but guys, we have so much more in common than we're different. And the media loves to exploit our differences. They don't like to talk about the good. But every day, 330 million people, very diverse nation, millions and millions of interactions between whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, interactions throughout the country every day that are perfectly kind, harmless. They don't talk about that. It's the one. Something bad happens, blow it up, and they let you know about it. And people make a living off of doing that. Their whole lives are around tearing people apart, tearing Americans apart, turning them against each other. I don't like it. So I like to talk about it. But yes, this is our immigration leading up to the summer of 1919. So 1880 to 1890, most of the people coming from Europe were from Northern and Western Europe, which meant they had lighter hair, lighter skin, and lighter eyes. As we move closer to 1920, you get more people from Southern Europe, darker skin, darker eyes, and so forth. So that becomes part of our immigration policy. Okay. Talk more about that tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Sorry I got all into the weeds on that.